Talk Goalie to Me is hosted by Minnesota native Olivia King. Olivia King played 6 Division I seasons between the pipes for both the Golden Gophers and the St. Thomas Tommies. She began her goaltending career in Brainerd, Minnesota, taking her high school team to the Minnesota State High School Hockey Tournament twice. Today, she's molding young goaltenders, coaching at both the youth and high school level, both boys and girls, while also chatting with some of the most well-known hockey names across the country. So get comfy and listen in for today's episode of Talk Goalie to Me. Here's Olivia King.
If you couldn't use white or black tape, what color would you use?
I might just go no tape.
No.
I don't.
Clear.
No. I mean, like, great example. I don't know why he does this because I always thought he had great style until this happened. I was like, he might be out of the rankings. Marc-Andre Fleury used like that green tape on the yellow stick for the throwback set. I was like, everything is so good about this except for the green tape. And I was like, why'd you do it? He goes, I don't know. That's just, they had it and I put it on there. He's like, white didn't make sense and black didn't make sense. He just put green. I was like, that's awful.
He might as well have put like
flame
wild
tape.
With
Logo,
flame tape.
Yeah, wild logo tape on that. I was like, that's so bad.
I think I'd have to go with pink.
Yeah, you know what? Actually, that's fair. Like, I think whenever they do, like, you know, cancer awareness or, you know, any of those things like that specialty tape, it looks cool because it pops off of there. And, like, even in the NFL when they do, they've got their, like, the gloves and the cleats and stuff like that are pink. I think it looks super cool. And, yeah, maybe it's not an every game thing, but I always think it looks good because the uniforms look good and then the pink kind of pops off there. So
true. When I'm coaching the little kids, it's always funny. They have always got the flames.
Or neon green or like any of that.
Sometimes they'll do like smiley faces with, they'll have like multiple colors. Classic.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Goalies, welcome to the Talk Goalie to Me podcast, where we spill all the behind the mask tea with goalies, talk gear that actually works, and hear the crazy stories only goalies can tell. Big shout out to General Sports, where you can get your pads, mask, and everything in between totally dialed in. All right, let's kick things off. Today's guest is Connor Beaupre. Connor is the e-bug for the Minnesota Wild, better known as the emergency backup goalie. He grew up playing in the Minnesota State High School League with Edina and is now the goalie coach at the Academy of Holy Angels. Today, we're answering all your questions about e-bugs in the NHL. What is an e-bug? Why are they needed? How do you become one? Here's the gist. An e-bug is a goalie who's on standby in case both team goalies are injured or unable to play. They're not NHL rostered players, but they're ready to step into an NHL game at a moment's notice, sometimes even for the opposing team. I gave you the basics, and Connor will explain the rest. Here's my conversation with Connor Beaupre. All right, I'm so excited to welcome Connor Beaupre to the Goalie Pod today. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to just get into everything from e-bug to high school coaching, goalie coaching, and all the things. But just to start off, how did you get into goalie?
A lot of people would say it's in my blood. I was born to be a goalie. My dad was a goalie. He played in the NHL for 17 seasons. Started in Minnesota. He's from Kitchener-Waterloo in Ontario. Grew up playing there. Then played junior at Sudbury with the Wolves. And then got drafted by the North Stars in 1980. And he was planning on going back to junior, whatever. He came to camp and ended up making the team as an 18-year-old, 19-year-old. And 80-81 was, all the older people listening to this probably know the story, but him and Gilles Meloche, who was like 10 or 11 years older than he was at the time, they ended up going to the Stanley Cup final, and they lost the Islanders in 5 games when they were just starting their run of like winning 4 straight. But had a good year that year, stayed with the North Stars for 7 more years, then got traded to Washington. Was in Washington for 8 years-ish. I was born in one of the last couple of years he was out there, so I was actually born in Annapolis. And then he had a couple good years there, but they're in the same division as Lemieux and Yager and that freight train in Pittsburgh. And so no cup runs there, and then he got traded to Ottawa right as they kind of started up, and they were not a good team. He was there for a year and a half, got traded to Toronto, and then sent down to the minors when he was 36, 37, and hung him up after that. So,
wow, that's absolutely crazy. When he was moving around everywhere, do you remember doing that as a kid?
Not really, no. I think it's more of like when you've seen photos of yourself as a kid, and you're like, oh, I remember when we did that. I was like, there's no way. He played, the closest I could probably get to a memory would be in his last year, he got sent down. He was playing with the Utah Grizzlies, and I don't know if there's a picture or what, but my mom used to bring me to like the tennis courts with like a mini stick and a tennis ball, and I would go and like shoot at the tennis court or whatever and run around. I think it was like 4 years old or 3 or 4 years old. But then he retired, and my mom's from Bloomington, so we came back here, and we had a house here, but we moved back here full time, and then we were living in Edina, and that's where I started. Well, actually, funny story is I wanted to play hockey so bad all the time, and always wanted to be a goalie, all this stuff. But they didn't have like mini mites yet at Edina, so I had to go play at Hopkins.
Oh.
And so I played Hopkins mini mites right away, and there was no goalies in that, but I wanted to be goalie so bad that we'd do like some scrimmages, and I had these little goalie pads. I think the first set were little Vaughns, because my dad wore Vaughn at the end of his career. And so there were these like black ones that were like meant for like the basement or whatever, but we're 4 years old, so I threw those on a couple times in like a practice or something like that, and just like from there I got to be a goalie. Like every time I got on the ice, I was like, does somebody else want to be goalie? If not, I'm going to go in the net.
Yeah, so you were always a goalie. You never really played forward or anything else.
I did here and there, like when you had to, but like come squirts when you had to make the decision. Yep, mites if you're rotating goalies, like, okay, hey, everybody's got to do it once. If you don't want to do it, Connor's going to do it because he wants to do it. So but it was great, yeah, right away.
And then you played Edina High School.
Mm-hmm.
So can you talk to me about your career there? I know you went to, was it one state tournament or was it a few?
So we had a lot of good goalies at Edina, which is usually the case there too. A lot of players, a lot of goalies. So we went. I ended up playing a handful of games. So we went my sophomore year, and we won that year. I was playing JV. Junior year was playing JV, and we went there. We had 2 seniors on varsity that year, and then the year after that, 2012, we were playing. I started against. Who did we play in the first round of the Turkey Trot? I can't remember. We played there, and then we played Maple Grove, and the other goalie played Willie Benjamin. He was a junior that year. He played that next game. Then we were playing Lakeville or Eastview. It was Eastview at home opener or whatever. Super pumped, and like we were talking about before, like high school hockey is so cool. That's what like ultimate dream for me was to play. But we go to play Eastview, and I remember we went down. It was 1-1. We had scored. They had scored. 2-on-1 coming down from my right side, and the guy made a saucer pass across, and I went to go slide over and get the puck. The guy who made the pass slipped, fell, caught my right skate, and like tore my groin from the bone. And so, or it like had tears in it. I remember I couldn't like stand up. Like I went to go stand. I was like, wow, that hurt. Tried to stand up, couldn't stand up, got off the ice. I remember like taking my gear off and being like, I can't even put any weight on my leg right now. And so I think I was out until middle of January. I do remember coming back it used to be the Schwann Cup was the big one. We were playing at Ritter, and we were playing Minnetonka, who was ranked number 1 or something like that. And they got up on us like 4 or 5, nothing, and they were just all over us. And I remember sitting on the other bench, and I remember feeling like I do not feel ready to play right now. Like my leg, I don't know if I could do it, and feeling like, oh man, I might have to go into this game where we're getting shelled and I'm going to get hurt again. Like I was worried from that point, and Willie had played great when I was gone. And it was funny because Andrew Rokel was the backup behind him, or behind me at that point. So he was up with the varsity team, and then he ended up we went to state that year, and we lost to Benilde in the first round, and they ended up winning it. The year after, that group went back. We only had 2 seniors on the team. It was me and Nick Lear, who ended up playing baseball. So they went back the year after with basically the same team, and they won state. And then Andrew Rokel was the goalie after that, after Benjamin graduated, and they won state again. And like that, that kickstarted it for those guys, I think, right away. And nobody thought we were going to even get close to state, but we did it, and they scored. I think Christian Horn scored, or Grant Bessie scored with like 50 seconds left to beat us 3-2 in the first round, and that was a crazy year for state. But yeah, after that, our teams were so dialed with Malmquist and Hurley, and our whole decor was so good. I think they all may have played Division I, but those teams were so good. Then after, I remember being like, man, we were that close. Maybe me and the other senior dragged them down or something like that first year. But
I doubt it.
Yeah.
Do you think that throughout your youth and high school career that you ever felt any pressure because of your dad's long career in the NHL as a goalie, playing the same position as you?
Yes and no, and I think it's more internal than external. For him, he was always like, I'm never going to drag you to the rink. If you don't want to go, you don't have to play. I don't want to make it seem like a chore that you're going, because if that's how it is, like, you don't want to be there. So I don't want you to be there, and I always wanted to be there. I was always excited to go to play hockey. Like, give me another skate, another time like that. And I think he was happy about that there wasn't any sort of like, okay, how much do I need to push him to do this? But I think in the end, it was very much like, hey, if you want to try and play at the next level, I can tell you all of the things that I know. And if you're not that interested and just want to play, that's totally fine too. Enjoy it. Have fun. Like, there was never any pressure from him. But I think internally it felt like, yep, I'm supposed to be here. I need to be here. And not that I ever didn't want to be there, but in a lot of cases, like, this feels like what I'm supposed to do right now. And so it gets to that point where, like we were talking about earlier, like, you go, you know what, career's over. Like, that's a hard pill to swallow when you focus on that for so long. And you're like, all right, I guess I'm done, which is crazy. Like, I'll never forget, we played in the whatever consolation bracket after we got eliminated. We played Duluth East at Mariucci. And I remember, like, losing to Benilde hurt and, like, tears in the locker room a little bit. And then, but what I didn't realize was I felt like that next game when we played Duluth East, I was like, wow, now I'm really done. Like, this could be the last time I ever play competitive hockey again. Because the year before, after my junior year, I was playing on a pretty good, like, AAA or whatever team, and we played this tournament in Chicago. And I talked to, like, OHL Central Scouting and stuff like that, and at that age, at 16, 17, I had already passed the draft year, so I was eligible to kind of go wherever. So my summer before my senior year, I went to London, the London Knights, to try out for their camp. And they had a goalie. They had Michael Hauser, who still plays in the league. Smaller guy, but really good goalie. And he ended up being, like, goalie of the year and OHL player of the year that next season. But they had a backup who had gotten killed, like, falling off the back of a pickup truck.
Oh, my.
That was supposed to be really good. So they were kind of scrambling for a backup goalie that year. So they had brought in, like, a huge selection of guys. And so I ended up going to camp with them. I'll never forget being in the meeting there either, in that rink. And, it was Bud Gardens at the time. I think it's something else, Labatt Center or something like that now. And beautiful rink, and talking with them. And they're like, so what do you want to do? Do you want to stay? If you stay here, because this is before all the new rules came in, do you want to stay here and play in scrimmages in Windsor tomorrow, if you could choose? Or do you want to just go back, play high school, try and go to state tournament, whatever. We'll watch you there, and we'll see what the roster looks like next year. And I was like, tough to say, because if I'd stayed, then I'd lose my college eligibility, and that'd be it. Mm-hmm. And so I'd be like, I have to either make it here if I want to go to the next level, or I'm kind of done. And once you get cut from up there and you don't have any affiliations anywhere else, you're in trouble. But I was like, I want to play in the state tournament. Like, in the moment, I was like, it'd be cool, but I was like, I want to play in the state tournament more than anything. I think that was the biggest. Like, I love high school hockey and coaching now, too. It's like, that's all I could think about then. I was like, I'm going back. Like, if it works out that I'm going to come back here, that's what I want to do. But for now, I want to go back to Edina and play. And got hurt, and that was kind of it. They're like, yeah, we'll come watch you during this tournament. Hurt during the whole thing, and that was it. And so it kind of gets taken away from you, but it's also kind of good that, hey, you know what? I was at peace with it a little bit, too. Like, you know what? That was kind of the end of the line, and didn't want to go play, juniors, NA3 or NA or whatever it was at the time. I was like, I'll just go to school. That's fine. So,
can you talk to me about when you did go to college and why you decided to, play club?
Yeah, I was kind of ready to be, I don't know if I was ready to be done. but I went to the University of Denver. I was like, school looks fun, like cool. It's in the mountains, all that stuff too. And then I can't even remember how I looked into the club program. I saw it or something like that. And my cousin, she had played at Benilde, and then ended up playing club there. And like crazy story about her time there, really short, was her team was like 9 players, and she was like by far one of the best. There was her and one other girl, and I can't remember where she said the other girl was from, but they would play with 9 skaters and a goalie, and they would like win games like 7-6. And then they ended up going to like regionals or whatever, something like that. And they showed up, and they're like, how do you guys ever win a game? You guys do not have enough players. She was out on the ice like the whole time, but crazy. So she was like, you should look into club hockey there. And so I did. And I met like a bunch of really, really great guys through there. And I was like, all right, I want to play here. And I think that group we weren't the best team. But it was a really fun group of guys, and our seniors were really cool. And my goalie partner that first year was Kyle Underreiner, and he's from Montana. And he had played like 3 years of juniors. He had gone to school at Denver for 4 years and was doing like a 5th master's year. So he was like 25, and I was like 18. And I loved Undy, and it's perfect. Like he looks like he's like 40, but such a good dude. And it's like, oh man, I feel like I'm talking to my older uncle whenever I see him, but he was such a good mentor right away, and his group of friends that led the team was really good. And I was like, club hockey's awesome. Like, this is fun. We're competitive. We traveled. We went to Arizona and California and all over the place to play, and some great memories doing that for sure. And then just at school at Denver, I didn't really love going to school there. It's really small. Your classes are pretty predetermined depending on what it is. And I was like, you know what, I think I'm ready to make a change. And so I came back to the U and went to Minnesota, and club hockey there was like the complete opposite. Like, the team was pretty good, but we didn't really even practice, or we did like once a week, and it wasn't as serious, and we just show up to play games. But it was hard to convince guys to play, Saturday afternoon games when, the football team's playing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so it was a totally different thing. And I remember after that, I was like, man, this isn't even, I don't even know if I even want to play club here anymore. Like, I'm okay being done. So
it's crazy that, people who do play club and play a bunch after high school or college, it's like they just do it because they love it. And it's nice that, even like club, like you do get to meet teammates just like if you were on any other team and stuff. So I think that definitely like leads me into like, obviously you love hockey, you love goalie, you still coach. Mm-hmm. Can you talk to me about like how long that you've been, goalie coaching?
So that actually kind of leads one into the other. So I ended up helping out, or like skating out with like a beer league team, and just for fun, I was like, all right, I'll go skate. It was up in Plain, and I ended up playing on the same team as Pat Griswold, and he was the head coach at Minnehaha Academy at the time. He had been there for 6 years, and 6 or 7 years or something like that, and they had a good team, and we were just talking or whatever, and we get beers after and all that stuff too, which is fun, and just a good guy to hang out with. And he was like, hey, we're we got a pretty good squad here, looking for goalie coach. We got a really good goalie, but he just hasn't gotten over the hump yet. He's super athletic, all this stuff. And so would you want to come in next year and help us out? And the group they had at Minnehaha Academy was really good. And that's where Pat went to high school and all that stuff. So it meant a lot to him. And so we had Justin Evenson was his name, and he had a twin brother, Alex, who ended up playing baseball after. But we had a couple other kids on the squad that were good, and it was single-A hockey, but we were a pretty good single-A team. And so we get through the year, and we're, working with Justin, all that stuff too, was like my first really like one-on-one. And the other funny thing is we only had one other goalie too for the JV as well.
Oh, wow.
And he was a senior as well. So, and Steiny, he wasn't, and he'll admit it, he wasn't the best goalie, but he was so dedicated to it and loved it and loved being around the guys. Like, he would practice both varsity and JV. So he would hit the varsity practice, just get absolutely shelled in practice because it was, tons of drills, and Justin's playing most of the games. So, whatever. And then he'd go play JV, and then he'd go home and do his homework and all that stuff, and go back to school. And he ended up going to Air Force Academy, which is so hard to get into. Mm-hmm. So like so much credit to him. And he ended up playing club at Air Force, which is kind of funny too.
Oh, that's cool.
But so we had Justin, and Justin was really good. And I mean, I was in my last year of college. So I was 22, 23. And so Justin's 18. So our age gap is so close with these kids. So it was kind of funny at first, but, coaching with Pat, and we had Bill McClellan, who's the head coach at SPA, was our coaching staff. And those guys were so great. And I learned so much from those guys right away and really just fell in love with like the team side of coaching of like, hey, when you played, you loved the wins and the losses and the ups and the downs and grinding it at practice. As a coach on a team, you get that same thing. And I was like, this is awesome. When we're winning, it's so much fun, like huge games, and it's coming down to the wires, so incredible. You're losing, and you feel like crap after. You're like, oh, my God, like I can't believe we dropped that game. We should have won. And just the roller. Like it felt like I coached there for 3 years in just that one season, just with all the ups and downs we had. But loved it, and that's where I really started to love coaching. And not even just I loved high school hockey, but it's just so fun at that level with the kids that have some skill, can play. You can teach systems. Like that age is so good because you've got kids that are willing to learn and are coachable and can do a lot of the things that you ask of them. And it's also so volatile. Like it's so inconsistent. Like some days guys are great and some days guys are terrible, and you just kind of learn to work around that. But working with Justin was awesome, and he is such a competitor and just hated getting scored on in practice. Hated it. I mean, I think I saw him break 4 or 5 sticks and stuff like that over time, and it would just be like somebody would shoot a puck on like it's a 3-on-2 drill, and it would go up to the point, and somebody from the line would shoot it and back into the net, and he'd just be so mad. And I think that's what drove him to be, such a good goalie. He went to play juniors after that, and then ended up getting a deal to go to West Point. So I always joke with him. It's like so funny. My 2 goalies, my first year, Air Force, West Point, like just soldiers. So and that's their compete level was so good and all that stuff too. So that was great. After that, Pat got hired at Holy Angels, and so our whole staff went over there too. And just building that program and what we've done over the last 9 years that we've been there has been super cool. It feels like it has been like 2 years, but looking back and talking about all the players that we've had has been so crazy. I mean, when we got the team, I think they were like 4-21. And then the next year we had like 16 or 17 seniors, and we ended up going like 13-11. And we were like, that's the first winning season in a couple of years. And such a cool program. They had state tournament wins in 2002 and 2005. Treble had such a great run there. And even when I played against Treble's teams in the last couple of years there, and I mean, it's such a cool program to have all that history behind there, and now to kind of be creating some of that legacy the last 8 or 9 years has been super cool too. So,
what do you think you try to focus on most with your high school boys?
Mental game. It's all a mental game, and just trying to, when you have time in the summer to work on stuff, and coaching goalies and camps and stuff like that, like that's when it's best to, hey, we're going to fix your stance. We're going to fix some technique stuff. We're going to do make the big changes then, because you can implement them over and over again. When you get 10 to 15 minutes in practice to work on something, you're fixing habits, maybe necessarily not even habits, but just stuff from games. Hey, you struggled with this a little bit, or there's something I want you to change about this. You get 1 or 2 drills to try and correct those things. So it's very, I don't want to say it's kind of micro and macro. Like it's very micro on little skills, but it's very macro on, hey, here's what you're hey, 1 period at a time, 1 shot at a time. Hey, take 5-minute chunk here. Power play, make sure you're playing in a little bit, or PK, make sure you're playing a little bit deeper. Those kinds of things too, compared to like, hey, you should hold your blocker higher, or hey, in the RVH, let's change this kind of a thing. And with our JV goalie, sometimes you kind of got to do that, but as you go through. But I think it's a lot more bigger stuff when you're coaching from the team aspect of it too, and just the mentality of like, hey, push through this time, or hey, we need you right away. The first, it's always been, we're slow starters. First 5 minutes, we need you. Like, keep the ship in the right direction, and we'll go from there. Like, which is fun because it's a different side of it, and I think, not everybody thinks the game the same way, but I think if you can get everybody on the same track, it really helps a ton. So.
Oh yeah, and I think especially at that age, it's all about connection.
Yeah.
So if you've been there for a long time, and if you can connect with them, then you can reach them in a different way that's not just technical.
Exactly. And being so close in age right away with Justin, I think really helped as, the same types of music you listen to, like all that stuff too. Like I don't know if you hear it now, but when you go in the locker rooms, like what are you guys listening to? All the old coaches are like, oh, turn that crap off, like whatever. I'm like, no, it's a good song. Like I like to play this one again, like all that stuff too. And so we connected really well, and I think still being on the younger side of coaching helps with a lot of these kids too, because and you can never forget that they're still kids in school, and a lot of kids don't play after high school. And that's also one of the things I love about high school hockey is like you can have a guy that's a Division I, probably going to get drafted, like all this stuff, like player, and he's playing with a kid that's like, I'm also like really great I'm a mathlete and I'm going to go to an Ivy League school, and you're on the same team, your teammates, with working for the same goal. Like some of the guys that I played with, some awesome hockey players for sure too, and there are a couple of guys that never played again, but you're side by side with those guys, and you're still trying to win a state championship. Like I think that's super fun. Like those are guys you never forget.
I agree. I think that is what makes high school hockey so special, because it's just a bunch of people who live and have like very different lives too, like outside of hockey, and the group is like such a mixed bag. Mm-hmm. But yeah, when you get to college or juniors, I'm sure for boys, it's like everybody wants the same exact thing, and in high school you're moving towards one goal, which is ultimately playoffs. But you have your family, and you have you're still a kid, and you have different aspects. You might you want to be a doctor, or you want to play college soccer, maybe like different sports or different long-term goals. When most often in college it's like your long-term goal is as a guy most often to play, or even a woman now, it's like to play professional hockey. Yeah,
I mean we were talking about earlier, the business side of it. Like when you get to juniors, it's not about, hey, I want to win playoffs in juniors or whatever the championship is. It's I want to go to the next level. Mm-hmm. And everybody wants the same thing, like you were saying. And then like in high school, it's like, oh no, we all just want to win the state tournament. Like you all have the same goal. Whereas in junior and even college, sometimes, it'd be great to win a national championship, but also like I want to play pro after, or like you're kind of starting to climb on top of each other at that point, even when you're teammates. So it's just special in high school hockey.
Like you still practice sometimes with the Minnesota Wild. Do you think that helps you kind of stay on top of what's new in goaltending?
Yes, for sure. Oh, yeah. Like working with I sit next to Wally usually in the locker room, and he is like a genius. He's so smart, and he's so into it, and he's so technical, and he's into the gear and into all these little details and stuff like that. And like just picking his brain on stuff like that, and working with Freddie Chabot, our goalie coach, and stuff like that too. I always pick his brain on drills and what he's trying to do with these guys. And even as we like rehab players too, like our skate this morning skated with a guy coming back from injury, just what Andy Ness chooses to do with players to help them get back to where they're supposed to be. Or, when you haven't been on the ice for a week or two, here's the things that I think are important to get back into your game right away. Like I pick up so much from them, even just sitting up in the press box, sometimes too, talking with coaches or staff or media. Like, when you watch 41 games in person this season, like you see so many little details that if a coach talks about it one time, you see why, because they see it all the time. Whereas like if you just watch a game on TV, oh yeah, I notice Kirill makes a great move, or Hughes does a nice spin move or whatever. But those little details and the skills that they're doing, when you watch them over and over and over again, and then you get to see them in practice, like, yeah, it makes sense why they do what they do.
Yeah, I think that is so cool.
Yeah.
Especially, you're right, all the little details. Like most people, they see highlights.
Yeah.
They see game highlights, and they don't see much more than that. So, especially as, like goalie is so specific, and there's so many little like nuances to the position, especially at the NHL level, that a lot of people miss if you're not watching full games, or if you're not consistently watching a goalie. And so I think that's so cool that you like have an opportunity to, like watch so many games and be there and be in the action. How did you first get involved with the Wild?
So same year I started coaching too. They were doing the Stadium Series game at Huntington Bank now, but it was TCF at the time. And it was the old North Stars players versus the old Chicago Blackhawks players. My dad was going to play in it. And the other goalie was Joe Malash, but he was the goalie coach in Pittsburgh, or was he just a scout then? He used to be the goalie coach in Pittsburgh, and then he ended up scouting for him, so he's still working with the team. So they were doing a practice, and it was a handful of like the Wild alumni. So I think Walls and Darby Hendrickson and a handful of guys that were also on the staff as coaches. We skated. They were just doing like a little tune-up skate or something like that. So I skated in the opposite end of my dad, which was super cool. It was the first time him and I had the pads on at the same time, which just with when he retired, I was like, I don't know if there's ever going to be a chance to do it. And we got to do it a couple times, which is super cool. And we actually have a little gear nerd moment, but CCM ended up sending him and Milosh like a custom set of like brown. They were like E-Flex 2 pads, and like I helped my dad design them, and like with all the specs, like, okay, you want it to be soft, you need more brakes, you want this glove, like all this stuff too. And they were like these awesome brown with like this green and a little yellow stripe on them. They're like, they were perfect. Like,
That's
those
awesome.
are my dream pads, and they're like not even mine. But so they sent them to us, and they were going to send Milosh his set. He's like, I'm not going to wear them here. I'm just going to show up and play. And so he's like, can you break them in for me? So I was wearing those at the same time. So like there's a picture of my dad and I were matching gear, which is hilarious. So I skated with them, I don't know, it was sometime during the week. And then I got a text randomly like a Saturday morning. I don't even know. I was still in college. I remember being in my apartment, but it was from Bob Mason, the goalie coach at the time for the Wild. And he was like, hey, we got a little bit of an emergency. Our usual emergency backup goalie can't make it. I don't know if he was sick or had something going on, but would you be willing to fill in for us to do this? And I was like, absolutely, like no brainer. So go to the game. He just sent me the instructions, go to the game, whatever. I'm there, talk with him and like our team services guy at the time. And he's like, hey, really appreciate you showing up. If you're interested, and you want to do more, and you want to do more games, like I'm sure our other guy would love to have a couple more games off because he's doing them all right now. And I think just at the time they were like, hey, we need a guy to do it. And we skated with Connor, and he was good enough that if something happened, like he could go in the net and be okay. And I was still, I think I just finished playing club, or the season had just wrapped up, or like we were on a break or something like that, but still practicing regularly and all that stuff too. So in a good spot playing wise. And so after that we talked with him. So Tino Vasquez was the first guy. He was doing it before me. He was doing all the games. Him and I split it for 6 years, and he's like one of the most pure athletes I know. Like if you ever find him on like Instagram or TikTok, or he boxes, he's like a scratch golfer.
Oh my gosh.
And he like doesn't play beer league. He doesn't really play, but he can throw the pads on and just be lights out. Like he's so athletic, like pure athlete, and such a good dude too. But so him and I split it through COVID, and I think after COVID, he was going to move, and so he said, I'm done doing it. And so the team asked, hey, would you be willing to just do it yourself so we don't have to worry about two guys? If one of you guys can't make it and we know the other guy's gone, now we got to find a third guy. Would you be willing to do that and have somebody if you need somebody, but, try and take them all on? I was like, yep, I'll do that. And so I took it on, and I think the last 4 or 5 years, it's just been me. So it's a lot of games, but it's fun to kind of be involved all the time, which is great. I mean, with practice and stuff like that, the last probably 3 or 4 years, they've gotten smarter, and this is where everybody's going to, having that third goalie. I think I'm usually on the ice 40, 50, 60 times during the season. In the summers, I'm usually there like 3 or 4 times a week. So as we ramp up before training camp, we're there every day.
Wow. I think it's so cool that you were in college.
Yeah, yes.
That's
and it was
like
like
the
this
ultimate.
weird split. Yeah.
Like if somebody asked me about that, I'd be like, yeah, I'm the Wild E-Bug.
Yeah, it was weird. It like you go to class, and then you come home and you put the suit on and you grab your gear and you drive to the rink and you go to the game and you come home and you're like, all right, well that was fun. Like you never know what's going to happen. And I think it was like right after that second year I did it is when Scott Foster played for Chicago Blackhawks in that game. And I remember I was driving back home, and there was a red cow like right by my house at 50th and France where I used to live. And I remember like sitting there after a game and like having a beer and a burger or whatever after I got home from a Wild game, and they were just showing the highlights of like he had just gotten in the net, and I was like looking, I was like, that is what I could be doing, which is like that's the real moment of like, whoa, that guy's actually in the net. Like now it's really real. Because you do the first game and you're always like, oh my God, I can't believe like this is, I'm so close. And after 10 years of doing it now and like 300 games or whatever it might be, like, and not seeing the ice, you're like, all right, like it's probably not going to happen. Like it's not a big deal. And I've dressed a handful of times too, like to back up as guys gotten hurt, but it's never really been that well, I guess it is one step away, but it's always, you sit in the press box for 95% of the season and you just watch the game and you go home and that's kind of it. But yeah, you get close sometimes, but it never really feels like, I don't know. Maybe I'm getting a little numb to it now at this point. But.
What's the closest you've ever gotten?
I would say, I think it was 3 years ago. Tampa's in town. Get to the game, go up to my usual spot, press box before warm-ups, and I'm sitting there, and our assistant GM comes and taps me on the shoulder. He goes, "Hey, you ready to go tonight?" I go, "Yep, always ready," like jokingly. I was like, "No, like, you got to go downstairs." Vasilevsky's sick. He went out I was like watching warm-ups, and Vasilevsky skated out to the other side of the boards and then like came back, and he was supposed to start. So I was like, "Oh, that's weird. He must not be playing, or they must have swapped him and he's pissed about it." And so he's just taking a little hot lap and then getting off the ice. He gets off, get the tap on the shoulder, like, "You got to go down and see John Cooper, and he wants to talk to you," whatever. And so I go down there, and so for 60 minutes, I was sitting, and we'll get to why this is important too, but I was sitting in the locker room, no jersey on yet, waiting to go. And if Brian Elliott, who was like 40 at the time, if he got hurt and went down, I would play the rest of the game right from the first puck drop, which is funny. So everybody was like, "Well, why didn't you go on the bench? Like, don't you go on the bench?" You don't, because with like 7 minutes left in the game, Gustafson came off the ice and was puking in the hallway, and Fleury went in. So now I am between the two benches waiting, and they go, "Whoever goes down first, that's where you got to go." And so if I would have suited up for Tampa and signed the deal and put the jersey on, Minnesota wouldn't have had an e-bug available to them either. So I guess that's kind of we may have got a little far ahead, but I e-bug for both teams when they're in town.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely crazy.
It's crazy, yeah.
Especially since, like you said, you practice quite a bit with the Wild.
Yes.
And when the other teams come to town, like, you don't practice with them.
Well, sometimes you do. I have a handful of times. So basically, I don't know. The first rule of e-bugs is there are no rules. There's rules, but there's not really rules, and everybody can find a way around them if you need to. Some teams, a lot of the Canadian teams use their Canadian university goalies. So like University of Alberta, those guys practice with the Oilers. University of Toronto, a lot of those guys will skate with the Leafs, and a couple other schools around there. So there's rules, but there's not really rules. Initially they had, and it still is kind of a rule. They used to say it was only amateur players, so you can't have played any pro or anything like that. The reason they say that is because if I had played pro, I would sign a professional tryout contract, which is a PTO, where I would need to be compensated as a professional, so I would have a cap hit. Because I've never played or signed a real pro contract, I am still an amateur technically, so I don't have a cap hit with my signing. So if Toronto comes to town and they're up against the cap and I've played pro, they can't sign me. They'd be breaking the rules. So they need an amateur in there, and that's where they kind of switch to, hey, we're only going to have these guys available for that reason too, for cap stuff. But so if a team comes to town, and like I practiced with Ottawa in the past too, because they had Craig Anderson, who was like also played very late into his 30s. He would never practice. So they had Mike McKenna was the backup then, and he had his podcast and stuff like that too, and still does a lot of analysis stuff for the league, and so he was the backup then. He goes, "We get a new goalie every time we go to practice. We go on the road. We get a new e-bug or somebody like that comes in to practice with us." He goes, "I've met like 6 new goalies in the past like 3 weeks backing them up," because he would just play the games and not practice. Wow. And so skated with them, and then again 2 weeks ago, Tristan Jarry gets hurt for the Oilers. They come into town the next morning. They don't have a goalie for practice. They got to practice, and they're waiting for Connor Ingram to come up. And so I get a text from their goalie coach to say, "Hey, we need a guy for practice." And that was at like 11:30 p.m. Are you available? And yep, I'm available. I'll be there. What time? 1 o'clock skate. Be there, and then I'm on the ice with McDavid and Draisaitl. Like, it's crazy how it works, but again, there's not really any rules. It's just if you're available, and you can get out there. So
That's what I always wondered, because especially in Minneapolis, it's like, why would they not just grab one of the Gopher guys?
Absolutely.
And be like, "Hey, dude, like, we need you tonight." Yeah. Or, whatever that may look like, but that makes so much more sense.
Yeah, I'd say it's more about being available than it is being the best. Like, again, when we get to the summers, with my job, with my flexibility being a freelancer, like I can be at our morning skates at 9:15, and we've got a group of 10 guys that goes out there, and I can be there to play. During the season, I can be there 41 games. I can get a text last night at 10:30 p.m. saying, "Hey, we got an injury skate tomorrow at 9. Can you be there?" Yep, I can be there. So it's more being available, I think, than a lot of things, and also the trust factor with those guys. Like, I've been around the team for 10 years now, and knowing those, I'm fine being in the locker room with Kirill or, Boldy and these guys, and I've gotten to know them pretty well. And, you could get, there's probably a ton of goalies that are better than me here, but can those guys be in the locker room with those guys and handle doing that stuff every day is another question too. So, and again, everybody would love to do it once, but not everybody's available and has the mindset to be able to do it all the time. So,
yeah, consistently.
Yeah.
How do those guys react to you?
You know what? I think it's easier that I've been there a lot. And, like, again, they're not looking for the best goalie to make them better. They're just looking for somebody that competes and makes it fun. Like, it's harder as a goalie, but, like, when you're out there and it's like, oh, we're doing scrimmage like 5v5 or 4v4, but we only have one goalie.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that sucks. You know what else sucks? When you're home for 2 months like Kirill was last year, rehabbing an injury, and you're just shooting on an empty net. Like, that would have been miserable, but instead, I'm here and they're on the road trips. And so, we were skating 3-4 times a week when it came down to it. And it's like, he doesn't need me to be the best goalie. He just needs me to be there and compete and try my best, and that, we're going back and forth, and it makes it more fun for him and guys coming back. And especially this year with so many injuries that we've had. I walked in the locker room like 3 or 4 weeks ago and we had 8 guys out.
Yeah.
And it's like, we have almost a full team here. Like, we might be playing 3-on-3. Like, we might need to call another goalie so we can play 3-on-3 in both ends. Like, it got crazy this year too. But yeah, I think that's a big part of it is just, hey, you know what? They know I'm going to show up and give it my all and compete and stuff like that too. And it doesn't matter. Like, I've done it with another beer league guy that, hey, we want another goalie for, do you know the beer league guy that wants to play? Sure, great. We've had Adam Carlson's come. He skates in the summer with us every once in a while too. And so again, that's another, hey, he's played pro and, we compete, we play 3-on-3, the same thing, or it's Fleury, or it's Gustafson, or it's Wally, like, whatever. It's when you're playing like that and you're competing, yeah, maybe it's a little bit lopsided, but if you're giving it everything you got, like, it still could be a fun game. So.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they're so appreciative of that because you're right, it does suck to not have goalies for drills, or if you're like you said, Kirill's home, he's hurt, and everybody's gone.
Yeah.
Like he I'm sure he appreciated that so much. How do you stay motivated to keep showing up consistently?
I don't know. I think it's the more I've done it and the more I've been around different players and coaches and GMs and all this stuff too, like, you really do feel part of the team. A lot of the trainers have been there for a long time, and you get in with that staff and the coaches and who you can. And even, there's only like 3 or 4 guys that have been with the team on the ice longer than I have. Like, it's like Spurge and Brodeen, and, like, I remember a lot of these guys coming in, and I've seen a lot of guys leave and come back too. But you feel part of the team, I think, after a while when you're there every day and you're in the mix. And I always say too, it's when the team's winning and everybody's happy. When the team's doing poorly, everybody's mad, from the ticket sales guys to the ushers in the stands to the media. Like, nobody wants the team to lose. And you kind of have to have everybody all in on the same page. And I think, one of the things that Guerin does really well is he talks to everybody. He's not afraid to walk through the concourse of the rink, the 200 levels. He'll go anywhere in Grand Casino Arena. And he loves talking to people, fans, and anybody on the staff. Like, I've walked into the building with him before, and he says hi to everybody. And he's like, hey, how'd the dinner go with your grandkids the other day? Or, like, whatever. He remembers that stuff, and he's such a genuinely good guy. And he takes care, like, he knows everybody's got to be in it to win it. Like, you can't, if your equipment staff doesn't care, or, your trainers or some of your coaches don't seem in, or your players don't seem in, like, you're never going to get anywhere, as good as you may be. And he's really good at kind of rallying the whole staff, like everybody, on ice, off ice, all that stuff too. So, you feel kind of a part of that over the years, and just as guys get back and, you can see them get hungry or get frustrated or all that stuff too. You're in it, just like coaching a high school team. Like, you're in it for the ups and downs and the wins and the losses and all that stuff too. So I think it's hard not to get invested in it at the same time too. Like, it's hard not to watch games and see how a guy, like last night got a little late, didn't watch the third period, but it's hard not to be invested in the score lines and show up. Like, once I stop caring about that, I'll be like, yeah, I don't need to do this anymore. So,
obviously the Wild had a iffy start, but have since been doing really well, and they have, quite a few people heading off. It's Olympic year, heading off to the Olympics, so this year's just going to look a little bit different, and then they just got Hughes. What can you kind of say about the team this year?
I think we've always been, as I've seen the leadership change too, like from the Parise and Suter days, and I listened to the podcast with Doobie, funny story about Doobie, and you had said it, like, when I met you, like, Devin's such a genuine guy, like, you have real conversations with him. So when he made that run where he played, like, what was it, like 30 or 40 games in a row at the end of the year, it was him and Al Stalock. And so, again, that's a situation where he's playing all the games. Like, I ended up being at a handful of practices then, too, because otherwise it would have just been Al there. And so Al feels the pressure of, like, I got to take either all these shots or whatever. And I think Tino did a bunch, too, and all that stuff. But I'll never forget Doobie's on the bench just kind of watching practice on the side, and I remember I broken a stick, and the trainers handed me one of Stalock's sticks, and he used these Warriors, like the foam cores, and they were so heavy. They were that, like, it felt like I had weights on the stick, and I remember, like, trying to make, like, blocker saves, and I, like, couldn't even pick up this, like, the stick anymore. I was so gassed. I remember seeing Doobie on the bench laughing. I was like, oh, my God, like, am I getting sniped? What is it? And he goes, and so I go over there, he goes, dude, you got it, like, don't use a stick. Don't even use that thing. Like, what a waste. Like, that thing is so heavy. I've tried it. It's the worst. I'm not surprised you can't even lift your arm up anymore. And so I think he ended up giving me one of his sticks to use the rest of practice. Like, oh my God, thank God. Like,
which was probably huge.
Surprisingly, no. Great. I think he had a pretty low stance, and I've also heard his pads are pretty short too. Like, he is all torso.
Oh, apparently. Interesting.
And I've been talking with some other goalies about this too, about, like, sizing of gear, and how there are a lot of goalies that don't wear, like, I used to wear a set of Scott Wedgwood's old pads, and yeah, they're probably like an inch and a half too big, but they fit me great. But a lot of those NHL guys with the sizing specs, they wear smaller stuff, but it's based on your leg size. It's not based on your overall height, it's just your legs. So there are guys that wear, like, 32 or 33 inch pads in the league because that's what their ankle to knee height is, or their floor to knee, or whatever it is. And so you'd be surprised at some of the guys that are, like, so much upper body and not big legs. So he must have not had long legs, so he's closer to the ice, smaller stick, or maybe he just liked that low crouch. But
yeah,
I used his sticks for a while. Like, I got a couple of those old ones, and they were great. They were the Bauer 1Xs or whatever in green, and they were perfect, light, good curve, a lot of pop to them, good sticks.
What pads do you wear now?
Long story. I'm wearing a set of true L87s. They're all brown with white stripes that look really nice. I just can't get into, like, the Trues flat face. I wore Reebok pads growing up and Vaughn gloves all through high school until I switched to all Reebok larceny gear my senior year. And I loved the pads, and I hated the gloves. I couldn't catch with the glove. It was awful. And then when I got to college, I think my sophomore year, I ended up getting a set of, like, I was between the new CCM, like when they started the E-Flex line, which is the hybrid pad with the rolls in it, super flexible, and then the Premier. And I was like, I don't know if I can get away from the Reebok, even though they're the same company. I don't know if I can get away with it. So I went to the P2s or whatever they were, like, stiff. The boot was stiff. Didn't like the feel overall, but I used the 580 glove, which I loved. And I never want to use another glove besides the 580. But I was like, these aren't it. And so when I switched back to those E-Flex 2s that my dad wore, I was like, these are the pads. Like, these are awesome. Except the glove was a 600 break, so to the side, more like the baseball style, which I couldn't do.
I don't like that.
And so now I'm in these, L95s or whatever, those same ones that Fleury wore at the end there. And not the same build, because he wears, like, legitimately the old, like, Reebok P1 pad that he wore his first year, and he will never change. He's got all the leather straps on the back. They're so heavy. They, like, get waterlogged. But he loves them, and he'll never get away. But So I'm wearing that, but the boot's so stiff, I can't get him to sit right. It's 600 glove. I just punch everything out with the glove. I've given up on trying to catch with it, unless it's like right in the pocket. So I'm kind of in the hunt. I want a new set. I've demoed some stuff recently. Demoed some Warrior G7s, which I really liked.
Interesting. I've never tried Warriors.
I hated the original iterations, and I finally tried these, and they're building a pro pad. Like this new Alpha Surge pad they just came out with is a pro pad.
They're rebranding.
Yes,
I have seen
slowly.
that.
Yeah, they're good. The new pad looks really good. It looks a little weird. They've always been a little gimmicky. Like I feel like when Bauer kind of went in and they went like, all right, we're gonna make the newest technologically advanced pad that like Lundqvist wore and like all that stuff at that time. That was super stiff, but it was really light and all that stuff too. Like I feel like Warrior was also kind of in there, but they just didn't get the spotlight. And it was always kind of gimmicky. And I think they built a really great pad for like a senior level pad. Like there's a lot of options that you can change on your own, so you don't have to know exactly what you want, because you just don't have. The average person doesn't have time to try all this stuff or have access to demo stuff, which I think a lot of places are getting better about, like where you can buy goalie gear and try some things. But it was a good pad for that, and so I remember I tried those, and they were a little bit bigger, but I really liked the feel, like they felt quality again. But then I'm sitting in the locker room. This is actually a really funny story. I'm sitting in the locker room wearing them. And Wally's sitting next to Wally, and Wally's like, oh, like new Warrior stuff. Like, what do you think? I go, I don't know. I'm about to find out. They're a little big, but whatever. And he goes, oh, Gus has been talking about this glove. And so I'm sitting there, and I go out to skate. I skated with the scratches and then the beginning with the scratches before, and then I came off, and they were going out for regular practice. And Gus immediately came over, I want that glove. Like, let me see that glove. Let me see that glove. And so he puts the Warrior glove on and likes it. And I was like, if you want to wear it in practice, you can wear it. Like, he goes, yeah, throw it on the glove dryer. So he just took the glove and took it out for a spin during practice and liked it. And we'll see. I don't know if I can't confirm or deny if he ordered one, but he's going to give it a shot. But he's like, I like the way it feels. The build's a little bit different, because he uses all Bauer stuff except for his gloves, true. And so he's goofy like that, whereas Wally's like Bauer. I've always used Bauer. Sticking with it. They've got the specs that I like. And he's like, I'm at the point where I'm not going to change, like Fleury. Like, I found something I like, I'm never changing. So Gus is going to try that. But yeah, he's open to all that stuff. But they're kind of gear nerds too a little bit.
That's
which is
funny.
Fun. Yeah.
It's funny how invested you get in all the little things.
Yeah.
And with me, gloves, I was always super finicky with my gloves too.
Yeah.
So I can understand where he was just excited to try it.
Exactly. Yeah. And those guys have access to whatever they want, but they also don't necessarily think about it all the time of like, I need one of every glove to try it. But when the opportunity comes up, and Warrior doesn't have the licensing fee to have their logos in the league anymore. So he really doesn't have access to a glove like that. So if he does get one, it's got to have no logos on it. But again, it's like everybody will know. It's like when Lefebvre switched over to True from CCM, and they had like the Lefebvre pad that didn't have any logos on it. Everyone knew what it was. But so it's interesting. Yeah, I think guys like trying new stuff, and they're not afraid to. But I do think there's always a point where you're like, this is what I like, and I'm sticking with it. I don't care how much lighter the new stuff is, how much more pop you get, whatever it is. But I like what I like.
Like when you find it, you're like, yeah, this is it.
And I think I got there, and now I feel like I'm goalie. Like, yeah, now it's time. Like, I got my style. Like, that's it. I'm like, now I feel like old school guy. So.
Do you buy all your own gear?
Sort of, yes and no. Some of the stuff I get, like some sticks and some leftover gear every once in a while from the Wild. The problem is those guys are like 6'6", and I'm like 5'7". So a lot of the pads and stuff like that just don't.
Could never fit.
And I never liked the Bauer gloves, and I like to have the full set matching too. Like, I wouldn't want Gus's gloves and then find another set of pads that like there would have to be a matching set of pads. Like I'll go out there, and again, I don't like the gloves that I have in the pads. Don't feel great, but it looks good, so I'm all right with it.
They are cool. I've seen them. Yeah. I love the brown.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's tough to beat, especially now with the way it like looks like the old leather too. It's not just like a flat brown. It's kind of got a little texture to it.
Yeah, it's sweet. Like almost like the suede.
Yeah.
It is awesome. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of gear, I do have a sponsor read.
Let's do it.
So I'm gonna read this, and you're gonna have to rate it 1 through 10.
All right, pressure's on.
Stay super engaged. Okay. If you're a goalie, you already know finding the right gear is half the battle. That's where General Sports comes in. They've got the best goalie setup in the Midwest. Pads, masks, sticks, skates, everything built for the ones crazy enough to stand in front of 90 miles per hour slap shots. The real game changer, their Goalie Lab, where you can book a one-on-one fitting with a goalie specialist like me to make sure your setup actually fits the way you play. Doesn't matter if you're just getting started or chasing championships, General Sports makes sure you're dialed in. So before you order something that might fit, go check out General Sports, because every save starts with the right setup, and General Sports makes sure you've got it. All right. 1 through 10.
I think I go 9.3.
I like it.
I feel like you turn on this like ad read voice.
I do.
You don't sound different, but you're just like locked in. Like it's ad read time. Boom, we're in.
Mm-hmm.
Which is hard to do.
I've been working on it.
Yeah, I mean, is that all? You just memorize that whole thing?
Oh, I have to write this down. No
okay,
way.
But even if you
I've
read
been
it,
getting I've been like memorizing it. I probably could read it without looking.
But like even reading something like that, like I feel like that's still hard to do.
It's funny because my friends will listen to my podcasts, and then sometimes they'll listen to my broadcasts or other things like that, where it's like more of a short blip. Yeah. And I change my voice when I do ad read or when I do like my short post-game interviews or sideline or color even sometimes. Yeah. But I can't do it for an extended period of time during like a pod. Yeah. Obviously. But it's like my serious voice.
It's like people's like on the phone voice. Like
exactly.
Like, oh, I got to call, the garage door guy. And like, oh, hello. Like, and your voice totally changes. Like,
hello.
Yes.
That's what it is. It's so funny. I always get so much crap for it, but it's very.
No, but you're locked in.
I'm locked in. Yeah. Come on. This is my job.
Yeah. Exactly.
But yeah, I will say with gear, everything changes so much.
Yes.
And everything is so specific. And at a younger age, those slight details that change over the course of, Vaughn's making a new pad or Bauer's making a new pad, it's like, it might not be relevant to a younger kid.
Yes, for
you
sure.
don't, those little niche things, but at that level, like when you talk shop and talk gear and stuff with like Wally and them, like those things matter at the high level.
It's interesting, like Wally was showing me what he does with his stuff, and his like blocker board is a little bit offset and a little bit different. I mean, there was that big thing going around on social, and it was the way he held his stick. I don't know if you ever saw that. He wasn't holding on the paddle at the start of the year, and I remember that kind of got big on social media, and I remember him and I talked about it. I was like, the first time I saw it, because this summer when I was in there all the time, so we signed Cal Peterson, and so I was like, thank God it's not just me, because we had like 10 guys. I mean, most guys live here now. Like Fabes lives here, Bolds lives here, Spurge, Bogo, like all those guys live here. Mojo's here. And so we're skating with like big groups. And so we're playing, once we got to like 3 times a week, guys, there's more guys in town. So like June, we're skating like maybe once a week, maybe twice a week for a little bit. July, after the 4th of July, it's 2 to 3 times as we get through. August, now we're at like 3 times a week. More guys are coming into town. And then come September before training camp, like it's every day. And so we're 5 or 6 days a week. Get in, skate, and we got like 20 guys. So need more goalies. And as we get to like July, I mean, I saw, guys I'd played beer league against, like Fleury kind of came back a little bit. Like Adam would come skate too. And so we've got like a different hodgepodge of guys. And then we'd sign Cal. I was like, the worst thing you can get as the e-bug or like a practice goalie, maybe you know this when you were like the 4th goalie, is you get like 8 players for skill drills for an hour. And it's like, here's what they do. They get to skate and do like a power turn, and then they pass it to somebody for like a 2-on-0 or a one-timer. And so they get to do that once, and then they get to go back in the line and wait for 6 more players to do it. And you as the goalie get to go, I get a 2-on-0, and then I get a 2-on-0, and then I get a 2-on-0, and then I get a 2-on-0 for like 5 minutes straight. And like, you're just gassed. And like, that's mainly my job, is like when, especially in the summers, like those skill skates suck. I mean, I remember I did one with Andy Ness like 4 or 5 summers ago. So he's got his Wild group because he's employed by the Wild, but he also has like a separate pro group too. And it was like Brock Nelson, Anders Lee, like Parise, Suter, all these like really great Minnesota players that weren't playing for the Wild. And I remember the first time I went to, I was like, okay, this should be like kind of fun, like whatever. And their drills were like, oh, you're just going to skate in from the blue line and make a move around the cone and then just unload from the slot. Like full steam, like whatever you want. And I remember like the first drill, I was like, I felt like Swiss cheese, like
target practice,
literally through my body, like just. And some of these guys, just like Brock Nelson, can just fire it, and just all these guys that are like legitimate pros in the league, and it's just you just get pelted for a while, and like those are the worst. So sometimes in the summer when the numbers get a little bit higher, that's what it turns into a little bit, and then you're playing like 3-on-3 at the end with one goalie or 2-on-2, and you got to play like the whole rep for 5 minutes, and they're changing in and out, and one guy just gets to make the pass behind the net. And I'm like, you guys got it easy at this point. So we signed Cal, and that's great. And Cal's funny too. He's from Iowa, but he trained in Minnesota a bit, and I played against him a little bit growing up in AAA stuff. And but he's a lefty. And so he was like trying new pads and stuff, and it was cool to see that process for him, because he was always a Vaughn guy for a long time. And I remember he had these like awesome custom graphic pads in LA and in Philly. And then he switched to Brian's, and he was like in this like very straight flat pad that was so different from his Vaughn. He goes, once I tried it, I really liked it. And then he ended up getting sent a pair from Bauer, and they were like he's like, they feel just like my Brian's, but just the blocker is better, like something about it's better, or like just these little pieces. And then Wally came after that, and Cal was working with his goalie coach, and so it's with Wally, and Wally is the same thing. He's like, I could never wear that, but it's Bauer. And he's like, it's so different, all the little details. But back to the story, so he's holding his stick, kind of funny, and I think that's why his blocker is offset the way it is, because that's how he liked to hold his stick. And I looked at him, I go, how did you ever make it to the pros holding your stick like that? That is the weirdest thing I've ever seen. And so he's like, I don't know, it just works. And I asked the goalie coach for Eddie Chabot, and he goes, it just works, I guess, whatever. And then he played his first game, he won, and then he played San Jose, and it didn't go as well, or, whatever, and he struggled. And I remember he had switched it, and he was like, I made the switch. I tried the other thing, and like holding it normal with a finger over the paddle, it feels weird, and it's felt weird, but it's really working for me now. And then he went on that tear of like shutouts, and I was like, it's not the case, but like some little change like that is, so now I got to ask him if he changed the blocker offset for it. But like that little change or those little gimmicks, or like how you cut your stick, or like how the shoulders are rounded on it, like all those little details mean so much. And sometimes it's mental, sometimes it's not. But that was one of those things I was like, wow, that was like the smallest little change, and it like changed the game for him.
Yeah.
In a way.
And even if it was just mental, it was just something
Yeah.
that he needed to change.
He did it, and it gave him confidence. He could have done it in the reverse. Somebody could have told him, oh, do it this way, and it gives him confidence, and he could still be lights out. Like, it's just those little things, and again, that's why gear's so important. Like, if you've got something you're confident in, or like, oh, I understand, or my body reacts better with this stuff, and you say in the ad read, like, having gear that fits right, not like the best gear. It's got to fit right and be the right size and all that stuff, because then it works for you, instead of like you trying to fight to use it to get hit.
Yeah, like it working against you. Or
Exactly.
you don't feel comfortable, or even when you talked about being injured in high school, it's like it's scary to come back after injury, and if you don't feel 100% confident, even just in your gear, well, then you might not be ready to play.
Well, and that's why I got this new set, and I'm like, don't super love it, but I had to get something new, because like the blocker board on the old Wedgwood set, the all black set I was wearing, was like a wave. Like it was so destroyed, and the glove was just like, I was getting like contusions in my palm from catching pucks in the same spot, and it was like I got hit one time and my whole arm went numb, and I'm like, I can't even feel anything, and I like shake it off, go back in, like, all right, there's no other goalie here, like I gotta get back in, and I got hit again, and I was like, I can't even wear this glove anymore, like I gotta change. And I look at it and I'm like, I'm such an idiot for wearing that thing for so long. It was so beat up. And Adam said the same thing to me one time too. I wear an old Vaughn chest protector that's pretty beat up, but I've added some beef to it in some spots, and wear a couple like guards in some places. And he's like, you could not pay me to go out with these guys and wear that thing. Like,
scary.
Yeah. And you take a couple pucks here and there, but again, I like the mobility of it still too. And I remember there was a couple times my shoulders were all black and blue. And so I just like taped some towels underneath and like just used that, and it was great. Like it feels the same. It's beefed back up and replaced some foams. It's fine. And you make it work, and I just love the mobility of it so much. I don't know if I could ever change to something that's not like a Vaughn chest protector.
Yeah.
They're so good.
I love the Vaughn chesties. And so many people wear them.
Yeah.
The chesties and the pants, I think, are still like very prevalent, like at any level.
I think my pants are Bauer. They're Talbot. Talbot's old pants. I think they're Bauer's.
Nice.
But I like them. But and I say this to everybody too. If you're a tall goalie, and not getting if you are getting custom pants, get them shorter. I always love I love the shorter pants. I can wear a bigger pant size wise, but with the shorter legs on them, you get more mobility and they don't push against your pads. And so all the NHL guys have them spec'd that way. So they have to be shorter. But like Elvis Merzlikins for Columbus, he wears extra short. Like he doesn't even use like all of that he can because he likes that mobility down there. And like you got knee pads on.
I know.
So that blocks in that space too. And like the mobility on him is awesome. I've loved having that. I don't think I'll ever get a pair of pants that doesn't have shorter legs on them because you can just use the bigger size and get the width and the protection, but still have that mobility without feeling like you got like 30 things overlapping
on your knee.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's just like overcrowded.
Yeah.
If your pants are also like touching your
Yeah.
knee block, it's just so annoying.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally get that. Well, you talked a little bit about like conversing with your goalie partners
Yes.
and stuff like at the Wild. How has that been? Especially just like Fleury was there, and now they're like you have two strong core goaltenders that are going to go represent their country in the Olympics who have been
crazy.
having an amazing year.
When does that ever happen? That two guys on the same team end up going? I mean, I don't know if ever, but
Like that is insane.
Yeah.
It's so cool
Yeah.
to be a part and be around those people, I'm sure.
yeah, they're. I've seen a bunch of different guys, which has been fun. Like I remember we had Kemper my first year, and like I would skate because we had Doobie too then, and so he wouldn't skate, so I didn't see Doobie until like a couple years after. But we had Kemps, and getting to know Kemps when he was young was really interesting in his perspective and where he had played and like all that stuff too. And he was like supposed to be, hey, really good goalie here and like be kind of our goalie of the future and all that stuff. And then he goes to Arizona and all that stuff, and his ups and downs and winning a cup and all that stuff has been fun to watch too. But he was first, and then Stalock was maybe before him too. I mean, Al's such a good dude, and funny connection is Pat Griswold, who I coach with at Holy Angels, coached Al as a peewee.
That's cute.
Like, and Al, their strategy was he's like, our team was not good, but Al was the best, literally the best. And they would trap at the blue line, and this is classic Pat of like come up with a strategy for like peewee hockey. And he would have his team trap, and then they dump the puck in, force him to dump it. Al would go back and get it, and he would just fire the Hail Mary pass down. I mean, because Al's legendary.
Oh my gosh, playing the puck, the best
Yes.
ever. Yeah.
And he was like, I think Al had 2 goals and like 40 assists that season. Because he would just launch it for like breakaways and 2-on-1s, and they'd win like 1-0 or 2-1.
In Pee-wees?
Yeah, in Pee-wees.
That's amazing.
Unbelievable. And so, yeah, like I remember the first time I saw Al play was in college. He was at UMD, and I went to a Frozen Four game or something like that. And he was playing, and I was like, oh my God, this guy is so good at playing the puck. Like
It's like a 6-on-5.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he was unbelievable. So talking with Al about that's crazy, and that's a funny little connection that Pat coached him, and Pat Lesko, yeah, it's the reason he made it. It's the reason he made it. Coached him up, and so yeah, so Al was awesome, and then we didn't have Talbs for that long, but like Kapel Kakinen, I remember skating with him a bunch in the summers and seeing his side of things, and again, he's a big goalie and all that. But yeah, I think when this like Fleury, Wally, and Gus group is the group that I know the best, and you come in and like again all summer, and Cal too. But you come in the summers and you're sitting next to anybody every day. You know, early on it's, sitting next to the D, like Middleton and Faber and those guys getting to know. Like when Faber first came in was funny. And Sammy Walker, too, another good story. So we had Sammy with the Wild for a long time, and I played with his older brothers. And so the first summer he was with the team, we get in the elevator and we're going up, and he goes, oh, you're an Edina guy, right? Or, yep, I played with your brother. So Benny, his oldest brother, was my age. And then he went to actually play in the Dub our senior year. And then Jack, his middle brother, was a freshman when I was a senior. And I was like, yeah, I played with Jack his freshman year at Edina. I was like, oh, yeah, I remember watching you guys. I think I was in like 5th grade. And I was like, come on, dude. Like, don't make me feel that old. Like, it can't be that bad. So Sammy and I become good friends and love Sammy. But, like, again, so many, like, younger guys, you see them every day and you go to work with them too. Like that's their job. And like, yeah, it's kind of my job, but you know, if you're willing to show up and commit to it and give it your all every day, like they respect that too. And so you really get to know guys on like a different level too. I mean, you see why guys necessarily don't want to talk about hockey whenever they leave the rink and stuff like that. So you go and say, oh, would you all golfed or did this or that or whatever. And like, I feel like 95% of the time you don't talk hockey when you're in the locker room and stuff like that. Like, it just, hey, that's what we're going to go do in a little bit, and we'll talk it on the ice and stuff like that, but you don't. And just getting to know, like, again, like Wally's one of the smartest guys I think I've ever met. Like, he's a little tinkerer with his gear, and like, we're talking golf, and he's like, I tried like 6 new driver heads at seconds. Like, he's like, I went second swing for like 4 hours and hit golf balls. I was like, oh, I love golf, but like, I could never spend that much time like just trying one thing over. It's like, I just want to play. But he's like that, and he's a super competitive guy, and same with Gus, and watching those guys work every day in practice and talking about little stuff like that. Like, my thing I always tell, like, Gus is so good in like his like post to post RVH. Like, he can move, and he could go, they do a drill where the puck starts in the middle and they pass it to a guy like low goal line, and you go RVH, and then he passes it behind the net and you go to the other side, and they pass it out front, and then you go out to that. And he could do that like 300 times in a row. And if you're a beer league goalie, I challenge you to just try and do it once. Like, it takes so much skill to be and strength to be as smooth as they are. And I think Wally's picked that up from him too. And what Freddie teaches them. And it's interesting to see, like, they're so calm and they're relaxed and they're competitive and they've got some fire to them, but you wouldn't necessarily know it unless you could like see the look on their face when they play and they get scored on and they're mad. But it's not like other guys, like I was talking about Justin earlier, like breaking sticks, and like that fire is still there, but you'll never see it necessarily as you would with other people.
Yeah.
So
I think it's so different, especially at that level too, because they're obviously huge and they just look so calm in the net. They look so calm. They make it look easy, especially post play. Yeah. Like you said, like RVH and getting in and out and just moving around. They're always like spot on. Yeah. At that level. So yeah, like them being competitive and stuff, like I'm sure they are, but you can't see it on their face. They just like they just look so chill and just like nonchalant almost.
And it's such a contrast to Flower when he was there too. Like, him and Gus were the funniest opposite goalies of all time. Like, Flowers like fly out on the net for a poke check, like full scramble, pad stack all over the place, and Gus is like, I'm gonna go into RVH and then just get a little bit bigger with my shoulders and get hit. And Flowers like, I'm going to the post, I'm poke checking, I'm flying out. Like, so to watch them go head to head and all that stuff too, and like, again, everybody says Flowers like the great, and he is. He remembers everything. He talks to everybody, and that's why he's like always like almost late to everything too. The number of times that I've gotten in the locker room and I've got like half my gear on, like we're going out in 5 minutes, and he's like full steam, throwing the gear on quick, and he gets out there and like same time he always makes it, but he's always like hustling through the end, and that's just how he plays on the ice too. He's like, hey, I'm gonna get there, I'm gonna get it done, and I'm gonna do it my way, but I'm gonna get it done. So yeah, it's so funny. One of the times, and this is like my ultimate goalie highlight of all time. We're out there, I'm doing a skate, we have an optional. Gus isn't skating because he's playing the next night. And so I get out there and I, see a group of guys and go, oh, Gus, is it me and you? Is Flower going? He goes, no, I'm not skating. Like, I don't know where Flower is. Whatever. So I start the optional with like 6 or 7 guys, and we're doing like a 2-on-0 drill or something like that. And I remember it was like a pass. They'd loop around up top and they'd crisscross and they'd pass, and the guy passed it back, and I like dove back and got the paddle on it on the post and like kept it out of the net. And I just hear Flower like screaming, like banging his stick as he's getting on the ice. And I was like, I don't even know who it was on, but he like went after the guy too. He was like, can't believe you got robbed on that one, whatever too. I was like, my whole career, that's all I needed is Flower hyping me up for a save. I mean, I was like, yeah, I'm good. You take over and I'll just be done. Like, it's all good with me.
That's awesome.
Yeah, like I'll never forget. I don't even know who it was on. I just remember seeing Flower coming on the ice, like being fired. I was like, that's the best.
That's amazing.
So cool.
Well, I love all your insight. And we touched a little bit on how you freelance, so you're able to do all this stuff. Can we get into that a little bit?
Yeah, so I do digital content and marketing for small businesses. So if you I work with a couple real estate agents, a couple apparel companies, a whole bunch of different businesses that just need either help on social media or on their websites, doing videography, photography, strategy, graphic design, all that stuff too. So I kind of picked up a camera. I was into marketing and did that stuff too, kind of out of college. And then I was working with a couple, like a friend of a friend needed help starting some social media and like getting a website. And so I helped them with that, and it kind of turned into something more. I did 2 or 3 more websites and social profiles, those kinds of things too. And they're like, okay, great, but like, how do I make it look cool? And I was like, all right, well, let me get a camera. And so I get a camera, and I kind of figured out videography and photography kind of on my own. And like, all right, here's a couple images and YouTube, hey, how do I do this with a camera? How do I shoot something like this? And watching other people do things. And I wouldn't say I was like really ahead of the curve, but I was kind of on the forefront of it, where somebody who needed something in that same space, like, oh, I like what you did for so-and-so. Can you do that for me? Which is really easy, because like, great, those are like the 3 things I know how to do with my camera. So yeah, I can do it again.
Of course.
Yeah. And so you learn more to make things better as you work with clients over time and learn more stuff. And then when we were at Holy Angels, it kind of gave me, we had Jack Jones, who played for us. I think it was like my 2nd or 3rd year he played there, and he's a defenseman for us, and good stay-at-home defenseman where everybody knew he was going to play hockey after. And he's a good baseball player too. I think he ended up playing baseball after. But he was really into videography. And he's like, hey, I see you do this for work. Can you like, I'm thinking about getting into it. I'll bring my camera. Like, can I shoot games for you guys? I was like, yeah, of course. Like, I'd love to get more content, because I was doing like little graphics for social and stuff like that, which is fun and took very little time because I didn't have a lot of skill at it. I could just take our photo that we got from our photographer and overlay some things. And so Jack was like, hey, can I shoot games? Like, I won't charge you guys anything, whatever. Like, we'll do it for free. I just want to get some experience. Like, yeah, for sure. Come on out. And he got some awesome clips. I remember that first year we got some really cool stuff and made some cool videos and like promo stuff that got a lot of attention. The kids loved it. And I was like, you know what? I guess I could do this with my own camera, because Jack went on and now he shoots for the Devils, which is super cool in New Jersey.
That's
so
awesome.
He was shooting at Augsburg, did Augsburg hockey for a little bit, and then he took an internship with the Wild and was there with the Wild when I was there. And he shot for them for like a year and a half, and then he went back to the Gophers, and he did Gopher Athletics for a year, and then now he's with the Devils, which is super cool. Like, again, it's
So
super
cool.
quick, but it's just like in hockey, right time, right place. You take a job and you meet somebody and you go from there. And so he did. I go, you know what? I guess I could do this too. And so I started filming some games and getting photos and stuff like that, just to kind of up our social media presence a little bit. And again, we're a private school, so it's not like we have a feeder system. So kids got to want to go to there, and they got to apply and go to school and all that stuff too, and get excited. And I think we started creating a little bit of hype through social media with the stuff that we were doing, and not many teams were doing it like 5 or 6 years ago. Yeah, there was some stuff like that, and now it's crazy. I mean, with you guys, Youth Hockey Hub and all that stuff behind it. But individually, teams, some teams do it and some teams don't. And now I think it's not necessarily a full necessity for teams to have it, but I think it's really important. I think there's a lot of teams that do a really good job that, one, you get your players noticed. Again, it's with Holy Angels, we weren't great right away, but we had some good players, but a scout would never see them, or nobody would really see the success that we were having unless we were putting it on social media. Like, again, early on, we had a couple players who were scoring a lot of points, but it was like, oh, you're not playing great teams. But when you see that, a certain guy has another hat trick, oh, he's got 100 goals now. We're hyping these guys up. We're getting them out there. I think it goes a long way that, some scout goes, you know what, maybe I got to go watch this guy once. And again, that could be the way that guy gets in. And I think now too, we had just Henry Lechner just came through for us, and he set the school record for points, goals, assists, everything. He had 270 some career points, like an insane number. He had almost had 100 points in the season, including playoffs, like insane run. And like highlighting that stuff as we went is school history, which is really cool. But like, I think it and he was noticed before, and he's always been a great player, but it really highlights how strong he is and makes a case where, there's so many high school teams and so many players. How do you weed out every single guy? It's a good way to give these kids the spotlight and how they play and stuff like that. So doing videos and all that stuff too. I think last year, we did like 2.5 million views on social in like
That's
a 3-month
awesome.
span, which is crazy. Like, to think that people
For high
are
school boys hockey. Yeah.
that people are that into it. And now I see, what other teams are doing. Minnetonka, obviously, Durs does such a great job with like their stuff is like so movie-esque, and Derek's got a shot at my guy at Jefferson for hyping that
I
squad.
love his hot stuff
So
this year.
Good. I mean,
It's
he's
so
creative.
good.
He's so creative, and that like hype video at the start of the year was like, you're like, oh, is Jeff? you watch that video and everybody goes, oh, Jefferson can't be that good. But you're kind of like, maybe they are good. Like, I'm interested. And then they go on that big run, undefeated run. And, yeah, you can, Tony said it in the podcast. He was like, you know what, they haven't really played anybody yet. And I think the ultimate line from that was, you know what, I don't want to be the one to tell these, the students and the fans that they're not making the state, but that brings the students out. And it makes the students believe, and it makes the players believe. And now they're getting support. And then you go on that run. Like, I told Dirks the other day, I messaged him after he did the clip. I think it might be my favorite high school hockey video of all time, but it's Tony's quote saying, like, yeah, I don't know if they're, like, whatever it was. Like, I don't think they're really going to be there, whatever. And I got the inside scoop. So Mason Garcia, who coaches with us now, used to play for us at Holy Angels, is a Bloomington guy and knows him. And apparently he texted Tony or messaged him, was like, hey, can I use this? Like, I'm not trying to.
Oh, yeah, Tony doesn't care.
Exactly. But Tony loved it. And, like, I was like, so much respect for asking to do it. I think and I think he walks the line perfectly, if not like there are people who go on to this stuff, and again, it's high school kids. Like, they'll go, oh, screw you for saying our team's bad, or like, oh, I can't believe you're picking on these kids or whatever. I thought the video was the perfect way to be like, hey, here's us getting talked about in the media, and surprise, you know what, we won again, and like that's like an all-time high school hockey video for me. And there's so many good ones out there, but like that for me, I was like,
I agree.
Awesome.
All his videos are awesome, and I think they're super cool because they're so relatable to like boys high school. You know what I mean? Like, they're playing poker in the locker room. They're just like funny stuff
you
where
see the real stuff.
Yes, and it's like, that's why it was so cool, because it was like, this is so high school boys hockey.
And he's not a hockey guy as far as I know. I don't think he ever played, but like bringing some of that outside element to it too, of like, hey, it doesn't have to be all hockey focused. Like, there's so much stuff of like fans getting hyped up that you don't see. It's really easy to just do the highlights of players who are really good. Like, really easy to do that. But he tells the stories behind it, which is awesome too. And I think Anders Franke did a great one for Minnetonka, like their stuff too.
Yeah.
And last year we had a video. It was like it had been 20 years since Holy Angels had been in the state tournament, and we felt like we had a good team to do it. And so we made a video like overlaying some clips of the last time we won state tournaments and all that stuff too. That was like 2-on-1 pass in the state tournament, or like I took a bunch of clips that we had from the game footage, beat Moorhead in the state tournament or in the state final to win the state championship. And like, it's like the players are coming on the ice at, XL Energy Center back then, and they're all running out. And then I've got a clip of our guys running out like the same time. And like, even like down to some of the little like 2-on-1 passing plays, like we had a clip just like that from the year. And so you overlay those back and forth. And like, we got a lot of messages from alumni being like, that's so cool. I went to school during this time, and like, I can't wait to watch you guys make a run. Like, all that stuff.
That's
too.
awesome.
And I think it just goes such a long way. And so doing that in high school hockey has been so much fun. And hopefully I can continue to do that and with teams and stuff like that too. I mean, it's fun to see that, like, okay, hey, the guys that I played against that went to Holy Angels too are like, we follow every single Twitter, like social, like all on Instagram, like online, all that stuff too. We watch every game, or we try and go to games, or even the guys out of state, they're watching all the streams. Like, we're so invested because we found out that you guys were playing well again, or like winning again. And there had been a little period of time where they just weren't winning. And I think people lost interest, but now it's kind of back, and they can keep up in that way too. And it just keeps everybody involved, whether it is scouts to get guys to the next level, or just, alumni that was like, I can't remember who it was, or some comment of like, this is the Holy Angels I remember, like from my days at school, and I totally forgot about this. It was just some gal who probably graduated in like 2006 or something like that, and she's like, I remember going to that game and all that stuff too, which is super cool. So
that's really cool.
Yeah.
If people wanted to look for your work, where could they find it?
Not a lot of places. I'm a big referral kind of guy. Like, if someone goes, wow, that's super cool, who made that for you? Like, I won't tag anything on there or whatever, and they'll say, oh, well, Connor made it for me or something like that, and is how I do it. But Connor Beaupre 33, I think, is my Instagram handle. And so, I don't know, I've got a lot of client work and stuff. Like, it gets a little boring sometimes, I think, but I, like, again, I work with a huge wide variety of people, which I think is fun to have that on there, and try and keep that a little bit diverse, just a couple like hockey content creator influencers. I work a lot with the Wish Cup, which is a charity roller and ice tournament that's down in Nashville. I've been going there the last couple of years, and we're going back. And they do, for Make-A-Wish Foundation, they have this big tournament, charity stuff like that, and all these teams play. And they do, like, we got some crazy content creators there that go to that. You know, we do like an all-star game. It's a roller, but it's like, you know, Swaggy P and Barber and Coach Chippy and the on the bench guys, and like it's John Chiavo and Dream Hockey has been awesome to meet and stuff like that. And so you meet this core group of people who are making great stuff, and they're videographers, and so I got a tight group. Like we got like a group chat for that too, and all those guys that come together and gals too that, you know, create awesome stuff down there, and you learn more from everybody. And it's just kind of, I think I always think about too with, you know, you're like, I thought I was going to be done playing, and then you get to college, and like now you're with this group of people that you're like, you're like, all right, I'm done here, and I ended in a good spot. And then there's like that little extra, that another level. You're like, okay, what's it like? And you get into that world, and like now I feel like I'm in this world of these content creators that are unbelievable, like videographers, photographers that, you know, a lot of them are younger than I am too, and they're making such cool stuff. But you know what? You learn from them, and you work alongside them. You're like, hey, how'd you do this? I was like, I didn't even think anybody'd think that was cool. Like, it's so easy to do. Here's how you do it. And I'm like, oh, that was sweet what you did there. Oh, it's easy. Here's how you do it. And you just learn more. And it's, I don't know if you ever felt like the imposter syndrome of like, okay, now I'm in college, and like, oh God, do I even deserve to be here? Like, same thing in the work world. But if you just keep going at it and you are genuine and like ready to learn from people, it's the same way. Like, you're going to get better. And like, I don't know, same thing with being the e-bug. Like, I want to be there, and I want to not necessarily get better. Like, I don't know if I'm going to get any better, but I want to learn, and I want to compete, and like those guys help out, and you know, you learn to get better that way too. I mean, I think I'm 10 times the goalie I was in high school now, even if I'm not, you know, maybe as strong or as fast as I used to be. I'm just so much smarter because you just learn more from doing that, and learn more from players and goalies.
Being around it more.
Yeah, I mean, I think goalies for sure. Like, as you age, you get better and better, regardless of, as long as you're still playing, like, you're going to keep getting, even if you don't do any practice or training or anything like that, you're just going to get smarter.
Yeah.
Like, which is with anything, you know, the more you do it, the better you're going to get at it. And when you're older, you kind of understand it a little differently. So,
love it. Well, thank you so much. This was awesome.
Yeah.
You did a great job, and I appreciate you for coming on so much, Connor.
Thanks for having me.
So make sure you guys look him up, follow him, and I love to see all your e-bug content. I think it's really cool. So thank you for coming on.
We'll see how much more of that I do. That's why I hold the camera, so I don't have to be in front of it. So we'll see. So.